Hey folks, what's going on? This is JPZ with D2X. I just picked out 7 stories from my feeds that I thought were interesting, and the one I'm saving for the end is really interesting for us as DevRel, DevX professionals in this niche that I'm really focused on. So let's jump into it. It's a lot of bad news. Good news doesn't sell, right? So here we go. Amazon is halting their Halo. They're laying off more staff. So prepare yourself. If you're still fortunate, you have work. Be working on paying off your bills, taking safe bets, and be prepared. Amazon's laying off. This is showing that those moonshot projects, some of those more heady ideas, are being cut off, so kind of trimming the fat, so to speak. You want to be prepared in case that your teams are going to be cut, or if you're going to be removed. Are you essential? And if the theme that you're working on is somewhat auxiliary, or maybe it's not core to the company's mission, it's possible that you'll be receiving the old pink slip, right? You'll be on your way out and being laid off. I just saw this. This wasn't here when I was doing the San Francisco's vacant office woes. You see these stories every now and then about, the benefits of coming into the office. Some people do like going into the office. I know people who like the hybrid model. In my work, I'm fortunate to be able to travel to conferences, and that's how I get my people-to-people interactions, and I really do enjoy that. Personally, I don't like the commute. I don't necessarily like going to an office every single day, especially when I have a nice home office that I'm comfortable in and I can be just as professional and be just as productive in. But, maybe it would be nice to have somewhere to go. But here, these offices are are being vacant, and it's a new era in how is this going to affect cities. Maybe we can turn those office spaces into residencies and bring back a renaissance in cities. Maybe we can create walkable communities in this new era. That would be awesome. I don't like needing to drive everywhere. I bought an electric bike so that I can reduce my car usage. How cool would it be to be able to live where you can also shop, and you can get your groceries, and you can have your nightlife, and maybe even have like safe places for families with small children or growing children, so that we don't have to have this dichotomy of living in the city or living in the country. Maybe we can have the best of both worlds. Okay, that's all a hot take, because I just saw that. So big tech is facing scrutiny. This is talking about Microsoft's acquisition of Blizzard. It's like UK courts. Maybe they are throwing some cold water on that. It is possible that this deal will not go through. We are beginning to see some pushback in tech, right? So for the last couple of decades, there has been, we could like kind of be silly and call it a love affair with big tech, between government and big tech. They have created a lot of wealth. They have created a lot of upward growth for economies. That upward growth has definitely halted, and now we are saying, hey, is tech too big? America, not so much. My perception is that because a lot, not all of course, but a lot of like the FANG companies are American, it's going to be harder for American legislatures to break up those large companies, but it is easier for outside powers to do so because it's not their home, and they're maybe the lobbyists aren't hitting them as hard, or they have just different rules of how they legislate. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. Just from like experiences, would say that if things get too big to fail, they either need to become public goods, or they should be broken down into more manageable entities that do not wreck entire global economies when they fail. And we can almost confidently say when rather than if, because we have seen a lot of failure in 15 years now. How long has it been since, let's just take 2007 to 2023? Oh, man. Yeah, about 15 years. Long time. Long time. Um, this is interesting. Just a little fun entertainment news. So Indiana Jones is getting hit with AI. We take the 80-year-old Harrison Ford down to 80 to 35 using AI. We are not going to let these people die. I feel sorry for young actors, that want to break in. You're still competing with Harrison Ford. We're still competing with like silent generation. We talk in the news talks about like millennials and boomers a lot, but Congress, the government, from the United States perspective, from my national bubble here, we're still run by people from the silent generation, which is even older than the boomers, right? Gen X is completely like forgotten about, just kind of washed away. They have hardly any representation at all in Congress or legislature. Millennials have just kind of filled in that space, and we are seeing the younger generation, what we call Gen X, or excuse me, Gen Z, the Zoomers, being also having an activist mindset and starting to fill in some of these roles. Is interesting to see how long we are competing with our elders now for a little space. Is that an indication that our economies are breaking? I'm not an economist, so this is definitely not my area. The pie has expanded so much, and we have stalled in how fast we are able to expand that pie. And those who think about these problems, and technologists who think about these problems, I imagine that they see AI as an opportunity to begin accelerating the growth of that pie again. Is definitely going to disrupt industries, is definitely going to make redundant occupations. We have yet to see what occupations it will create, what jobs and opportunities it will create. It's going to be interesting. Can these technologies, Web3, all right, and this is like my area of focus in Web3, I believe it will be a boon for humanity instead of a bane. And can we do the same with AI? All right, this article I find quite interesting. Please enjoy the final crypto winter. So Paul Brody suggests that the current winter that we are experiencing in Web3 is very much like the .com crash in like 99. For those of you who can remember, and for those of you who can't, there was this euphoria about what the internet is going to be able to do in the late 90s. It was all pie in the sky. Your average mom and pop were getting into the stock market and buying these, what they didn't realize were over-leveraged companies, tech companies, and then one day the rug got pulled out from everyone, and it was essentially an instant failure, and tech was set back a few years. And we have experienced this in Web3 and crypto, with Luna crashing, depegging, CZ playing that card, knocking down that whole house of cards, and then FTX, again, possibly CZ having, lighting that match that set off that fire. The climate of deregulation, the fact that Sam Bankman-Fried was able to glad hand so generously so many politicians, and very a lot of money to the Democrats. He also gave significant money to Republicans, just not as vocally. And it allowed the politicians to turn away so that he could over leverage FTX and destroy an entire industry because of fraud. So this article is interesting that, hey, this is very similar to this crash that we experienced in the past. There are boom and bust cycles. The last boom and bust cycle that was really bad for tech in the 90s and like the Web 2, and we have had cycles, but nothing has been as bad as what we had in the late 90s. And this is a parallel to what we're going to experience in Web 3. So right now, Web 3 is it is the scapegoat. It's easy to laugh at crypto, to, you see like the sentiment like block anyone who's in crypto or Web3, and for valid reasons. But Web3, the builders are continuing to build. There are good companies out there that are in it for the tech and not for the speculation. And we have the opportunity to create new ways of doing business and new ways of interacting, new ways of moving our monies around the world, and new ways of governance and new ways of owning assets and owning digital assets. And that is all going to be enabled by Web3. Okay, so Paul says that this is going to be the last big winter. If this is a parallel to the crash, the dot-com crash of the 90s, then certainly that could be the case. Okay, we've got 3 more stories here. I want to go through these with you. No, excuse me, 2 more stories. This is just the homepage on CoinDesk. All right, our next story, and this is an opinion piece, but imagining the future of AI and Web3. Let's see if I can get rid of that video. There we go. So we can begin to imagine these worlds where like AI is going to help us do tasks that maybe are mundane or repetitive and can help automate the mundane things, allow us to have more creative spaces and to have more time for ourselves. That is the goal, right? Rather than stacking on more work and burning ourselves out even more, even though we've gone from like a 300% increase in productivity since the 1970s to a 3,000% increase in productivity. Right? Give back to the people. AI can help us do that if we also respect the human condition and the needs of people to have themselves in their own times. Now, we can also imagine how Web3 plays a role in that. One thing Web3 can do is verify authenticity. So I saw a very convincing, well, to my lame eyes, today I saw this photo of, like, it looked like Germans from the 1920s, and with a Clydesdale horse, and the Clydesdale horse was twice as tall as all the men, like the horse's knees came to the people's heads. And at first I was like, oh my God, that is a huge horse. They had a lot of horsepower before engines were very common. And then I was like, oh wait, no, this can't be real. Like, yes, Clydesdales are large. They are very tall animals, but they're not like that large. That's a lot of weight on the heart. That horse might live for 5 years and then die. It's a heavy investment. And imagine the food and the output that horse puts out. And then another commenter mentioned that I don't know exactly what they call it, but like the breastplate, the straps that go around the neck and the breast of the horse were completely missing. Like, yeah, the photo was from AI, and we can use Web3 can verify the authenticity of photos. It can verify where a photo came from, so you can look at a hash and see the source of it This will be very important with like deep fake videos. We can make politicians say anything we want to say. I can talk into my microphone, I can make a speech, and then I can put a politician's or a celebrity's face on there, and the AI will convert my voice to match the voice of the famous person, and we can make them say and move any way we want to, and it looks surprisingly real. It's very difficult to tell the difference, for technically savvy people, much less people who just like, are in other domains and don't think about technology outside of like being a user of technology. So she talks about like the symbiosis in technology and what kind of collaborations we might have between GPT and Web3 domains, having assistance, having identity, a digital identity will be coming. Getting a digital identity and getting that right will be wonderful in a lot of ways. Now, there will definitely be privacy concerns that we need to be aware of and that we'll want to be vigilant on, that our privacy is maintained and that we don't have people like Mark Zuckerberg who say that people should not have an expectation of privacy while he himself owns a house and all of the houses around the block to buy himself privacy, right? We cannot afford to live in a world like that, a hypocritical world such as that, and we need to be vigilant. But a digital identity will allow you to be tied to yourself. It'll allow you to authenticate yourself. It can be a way to avoid fraud, be a way to absolutely verify that you are who you are, and it cannot be copied because it is cryptographically sound. And then just talks about like a brighter future and how we can use this technology to make a better world for everyone. And I believe that was the end of it. Yeah, and so together with proper regulation, with legislatures that take time to understand the technology, and a public that is vigilant about their privacy, doesn't buy into, hey, I'm not doing anything wrong, so I have nothing to worry about. That doesn't hold, because we can see the abuses that can encroach when attitudes like that are prevalent. I myself am hopeful. I am an optimist. I believe in a better future with advances in AI and Web3. I want to see that done in a responsible manner, and perhaps we need to update our economic systems to allow room for that, so we're not quite so, we have room to think about other things other than profit alone. And then I believe this is our last article, our technologist's approach to explaining what crypto fixes. And so here's another piece about these are the things that we can fix. And I see this little video clip has got a copy of Snow Crash. And they're making this a video series. Snow Crash is a really great book by Neil Stephenson. I read Cryptonomicon. Cryptonomicon is also an excellent book. Talks about like digital money. Snow Crash is like an imagination of VR. If you're interested in like sci-fi and thrilling books, then I would highly recommend this. And Snow Crash is on my next to read list. This gets into the heart of like what we can do in DevX and DevRel to help onboard people to Web3. So let me catch the name here again. Ankush is talking about his experiences of being a Web2 engineer and helping to onboard people to use Web2 applications, right? And that took time. We live in a world at one point where people were very, they didn't want to use the technology, right? Some people, right? I mean, there's always like, you always have your early adopters, but like it took forever, it seemed, to get my mom to use text messaging, right? But once she did, she loved it as just like a simple example because she understood how she could do it. It was easy for her, and she could like quickly communicate with her children, and that was great. Okay, so Web3 is going to have the same kind of like jumping over the cliff to help users feel comfortable using the technology. So what is Web3 good for? We hear this like, hey, what's it good for? So I did like rattle off a couple things about like decentralized identity, owning digital assets, like for gaming, for business purposes, owning graphic art, owning the product's IP that you create. You can have ownership of that thing, and you can get royalties for that thing in the future. It can prove that you created these things. There are like issues today where a freelancer may not get paid for work that they had created, and if the company uses it's on the freelancer to sue them in court for recommendations or for reparations. Web3 could help simplify that. Smart contracts take away middlemen, and basically the expression is that code is law. So there's this opportunity for really like creating a world where justice is obtained a bit faster. I really like this bulleted list that Ankush talks about for how we can onboard users to Web3. I don't think we've done a really great job of right now. There is a lot of tribalism in Web3 that I abhor. And then there's also like, we're building for developers and it's for developers and it's like us for and no more kind of a mentality. And that is not going to get us to the adoption point of using technology, right? That's going to create like a Luddite movement, or like, I don't know if it's true or not, but like this mythology of that the people were not allowed into the Library of Alexandria. It's only for the intellectuals. And so the people burnt that down. Right? They had no need for it because it wasn't part of them. People feel like that. People, if they're pushed outside of like the city walls, like the Emerald City, and they don't have a way to get in, people just rather just see it all fall apart, right? So we need more doors. We need to open more doors. That's really like the core of what I do. So put the customer first. Like that's basic business knowledge. Put the customer first. That's why like computer scientists should also study a little bit of business, should also study a little bit of like literature, and literature should also study a little bit of technology. Like you need a mix, because if you take a business course, you put the customer first. The customer is always right. It's like a common expression. It doesn't mean that like the customer is always right. It just means that like you do what you need to do to create a satisfied customer for the good of the company. It doesn't mean like the Karen is always right when she's getting in her ways. But without understanding that, I could see how like, okay, you're an engineer and it's just technology and you're only focused on technology. It's easy to abstract out people, but people are at the center of everything that we do. Optimize for customer value, not just the technical sophistication. This goes to the point, I believe it's down here, to focus on the benefits, not the features. Who was it, like years ago, when I think it was the PS3 and like the Xbox 360 were coming out, Microsoft focused on the features, Sony focused on the benefits to the user, and Sony, really, I think Sony won that iteration. Focus on impact, not just process. So focus on who is going to be impacted and what that change is going to look like for the user. How can you guide them through that process? How can you hold their hand? Sometimes you have to handhold. I had to handhold my mother as she made her first text messages, right? Be agile and move fast without breaking things. Now, there is a concept. In my last video, I was talking about moving fast and breaking things, and how that can damage. It's not good when you're actually breaking humans. And in Web3, we have broke a lot of things. We broke a ton. We need to move without breaking so much. Done is better than perfect. I love this. That if you're not embarrassed by the first product that you put out, then you didn't get it out soon enough. That's one reason like my videos are not exactly perfect, because I just want to get them done just to get them out. This is something I've been wanting to do for a long time, and here and now. The best time to do something is right now. Well, the best time to do something is 20 years ago. The next best time is now. Right. Done is better than perfect. Collective ownership and individual accountability. This is my attitude with leading my teams. When the team does good, it's the team owns that. They did the work. That's not the glory doesn't come unto me. And when we mess up, that's on me. I'm going to take it. I'm going to take that first hit. I'm going to be accountable. That's just called integrity. And we need more of that too. And I love this humor here. It's a tall order, but that's how we break through the masses. Honestly, it's not a tall order. Invest in developer experience, invest in your developer relations, invest in your developer evangelists and advocates. And if you need help doing that, I'm the guy you want to talk to. This has been JPZ with D2X. Join me next time.